And welcome to the Monday Steelers Depot live stream here on Steelers Depot. As always, is with me. With me is Dave Bryan. My name is Alex Kazora. Appreciate you guys being here on this Monday, March 21st. A very busy past 2 weeks here for Steelers Nation. A lot going on with an unusually aggressive, the most aggressive free agency we've ever seen under Kevin Colbert and really in Steelers history. So, Dave, a lot of fun, a lot of things for us to cover today.
Absolutely, been busy, hadn't it?
Extremely.
Finally got a little bit of a, kind of been a little bit of a slowdown, I guess, to some degree. Traffic was still heavy, even on Sunday. I figured I might be watching March Madness or whatnot. Evidently, some people who got some diehard Steelers fans because there was a lot of traffic on the site. We certainly do appreciate that, and I'm sure the folks have got a lot of questions tonight.
Absolutely. I already see some in the chat. So you guys probably know the drill, but if you're new here or have not been in the chat, the live stream in a while, Dave and I are here till top of the hour, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So for the next hour, we're answering as many Steelers questions as possible. If you want your question to be guaranteed to be asked and answered, you can send us a super chat and you will move to the front of the line. Just let me know if everything sounds okay audio wise. My OBS software did a bit of an update. It's showing a little different layout than what I'm normally used to. So if you hear any issues with myself or Dave in terms of the quality of the audio, please let me know. And be sure to like the live stream as well. That would really help us out. We would certainly appreciate it. So we'll get to the first question, and it's actually a $20 super chat coming in here from our friend Double HH. And by the way, I will put up and scroll through my second mock draft for you guys to look at as we go through some of these questions and comments. Double HH says, "This is for Alex to buy a digital download of the Blues Brothers movie. The first one is the only one. Don't bother with the second Blues Brothers movie. I watched the clip you posted on Twitter of that reference from the podcast today, and do you agree with Double HH take that they pretend like the second one did not exist?"
Yeah, I do. The first one, yeah, you watch the first one, no sense to wait. It's like you probably another movie you probably haven't seen, Escape from New York,
Nope.
old Kurt Russell movie. So he plays Snake Plissken in that one. It's a fantastic old movie with Kurt Russell, but don't bother watching the Escape from L.A. You know, some movies just don't need sequels in there. And whatever they paid you, I will double it to make sure that you watch it, Alex. Great all time classic, The Blues Brothers.
Gonna have to be more than that to, I think, get me to sit
Oh,
down and watch. But don't actually send money. I watch all the boring financial movies. I watched Too Big to Fail like 2 weekends ago. That goes through Hank Paulson and the financial crisis. And I'm guessing that's not been on your list, Dave.
no, I like history and war and stuff like that, and that I was there. That new series history has where they reenact, it's kind of reenactment of times in history, and the guy acts like he's there
Mm.
among it. Real educational series on the History Channel. That's got my attention right now.
All right, I might have to check that one out. But saying hello to everyone here in the chat. We have Russ, we have David, we have Steeler Nation highlights, everybody else here. So really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. First question comes from Raged EA2. Do you guys ever have the chance to go to any games, or do your jobs take too much focus to do that anymore? If not, maybe one of the one of the other fine members of Steelers Depot can take over the timeline for a game. Yeah, we don't get out to the games, really. I know Dave obviously lives in Vegas, so it'd be hard for him to do that for multiple reasons. But the way the site is kind of run, we're best at home on game day. I was and have been fortunate in the one upside of training camp last year in the summer was that it was at Heinz Field, so I could go back there for the camp setting. But hopefully, it's back in Latrobe this summer. I imagine it will be. But Dave, have you ever been to Heinz Field before at all?
I mean, obviously, we went and saw the outside of
Well,
it with
yeah.
you and David O. I've never been to a game in Heinz Field. I've obviously been to Steelers games over the years and all like that. And look, I've got dysfunctions on top of dysfunctions, and I don't like being around large groups of humans like that, and stadium type atmosphere and that kind of stuff. And I'd much rather watch them on TV anyway. That way you can watch it and then get right to you're watching it again at home and writing about it and those kind of things. So my days of seeing football games live now, probably go to a bowl game next year. I got buddy in Tucson there that's going to get me up in the VIP section for one of those bowl games next year, I'll go do that. But outside of that, I don't really have much of a want to go to games anymore in person. I'd much rather watch them at home and
Mhm.
get right to writing about them and passing along info to people on the site.
Right. Plus, I'm a big baby and hate the cold, so I just don't like being in the cold environment when I can be at home and watch it on television. But maybe someday I'll get out there to a game. We have a question here. It's a duplicate one from Ross Swisher and Mohammed. Says, Dave and Alex, which free agent pickup has been your favorite so far? It's the same question from both of those guys. Dave, what's been your favorite free agent outside acquisition?
James Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
You know me and guards, man. I love me some guards and some guards that got a little attitude to them, which James Daniels definitely does. Guys that can move out in space. Uh, that's been my favorite so far. I'm really excited about seeing him play. The only question is now at this point, where are they going to put him? Which guard spot? Will they consider even putting him at center? He's got experience playing all three interior spaces, and look, this is a guy that comes out of Iowa as well too. A good program there, especially when it comes to run blocking and offensive line play in general. A lot of good prospects come out of that college. So that's easily, I think, my favorite of all of the signings so far.
Mine as well, and that's the guy that I targeted above all else prior to free agency. And it's just the best player, the best talent, that arguably the biggest position of need, sans the franchise quarterback, which of course you were not going to find and acquire through free agency. And so that's a longer term piece. Instantly to me becomes your best offensive lineman of that entire group. It's a low bar, but still Daniels easily clears it, and hopefully a guy you can begin building around. So easily my favorite signing there. Next question comes from our friend Mike Adesso. Happy New Year, guys. Of course, referring to the new league year. It's been a pretty boring start to the new league year, eh? Yeah, it's a good sarcasm there because it has been busy, busy, busy. Underrated story on Browns is we went from Brissett in Alex's wish list to Browns starter in most all of the 2022 season. Yeah, we'll see how much he has to play whenever the Deshaun Watson suspension is handed down. I don't think it'll be a year suspension, but I think it will be certainly a chunk of the season. Brissett, again, was not a talent that I identified as like, this guy's fantastic. It was just really the doc connecting because the entire Steelers offensive coaching staff, it feels like, comes from NC State and coached Brissett whenever he was in college. So I'm not too upset about losing out on him, but we'll see what he does in Cleveland.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see how long they sit Deshaun Watson down for. I think that's the next kind of big storyline when it comes to the Browns there. And I guess the other kind of it'll play out obviously before the season starts. There is, man, all this quarterback movement now. What's going to happen with Baker Mayfield, and will they be able to get anything more than maybe a bag of footballs and a ham sandwich for him? Because he's got that $18 million 5th year option that the Browns have picked up, and that's fully guaranteed, man. So if they get in a situation, and they're not, much like the Texans with with Deshaun Watson, they're not going to want to carry that big cap charge much longer than a disgruntled player and all like that, much longer. So is he going to get shipped off to, I don't know, Seattle for like a 6th round, 5th round draft pick? I think that's probably the best case scenario
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that right now, because obviously Seattle's got the cap space where they can afford to take that kind of hit, and they kind of dangle the franchise tag over Baker Mayfield. If he plays well enough in 2022, then you can tag him, or who knows, maybe you can work out an extension with him, once trading for him. But the biggest storyline, now that Deshaun has obviously been traded, is how long will he get sat down for, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, my guess is about 6 weeks, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, we'll see if the Steelers play the Browns in that Watson suspension window, however long it is. And so we'll see if we even, Steeler fans at least, see Brissett, but I'm sure Browns will start him to some extent for at least a couple games this year. Next question comes from Verdon Barzy. Good to hear from you. What's up, fellas? Alex, do you really think wide receiver George Pickens is going to be there for us at 52? Why don't you have him as a first-round pick? Well, partially it's the ACL tear. Only caught, I think, 4 passes last year, just a handful of receptions coming off the ACL tear. It was great to see him healthy and work out the combine, and overall test pretty well. 4.43. The vert isn't great, but overall tested pretty strongly given the circumstances of the injury. But that is a factor. And really, I just think receivers get pushed down a lot because every year for the last several seasons, in 2022, no exception, there was just a glut of receivers in this class. It's a really strong, deep position. And so some of those guys naturally fall. So could he go earlier, than 52? Sure. You could easily argue that, but I think it's reasonable to expect that just given all the talent that's in this class.
Look, I think it's reasonable as well too. And I was just on ESPN in Tucson before we got this going, and Ali, the host, asked me, what's the deepest offensive position going into this draft. It's hard to say something other than wide receiver, right? I mean,
Hmm.
there are some wide receivers in this draft class that are going to be drafted, let's say like the 5th round, that maybe any other year you might be able to get in like the 2nd or 3rd round. It really is that deep. And Alex and I talked a little bit about George Pickens this morning on the Terrible Podcast, and the fact that uh, if there's any pushback, not only from the Steelers, but from around NFL circles in total, is he doesn't even have 100 catches at the college level. And if you go back in time, kind of look at Steelers historically when it comes to them drafting receivers. Now, obviously, there have been instances where they haven't gone that route, and I think Antoine Randall, I think, was one of them for obvious reasons, because he played some quarterback there at Indiana and all. But they normally like a larger amount of production out of their wide receivers, and usually that cutoff line's been right around 100. Now he's obviously close to it; it's like 90 something or
Hmm.
whatnot, and he would have played, if not for the knee injury. And that's the other thing too, is normally guys coming off of injuries, they kind of tend to shy away from a little bit to some degree there, especially if they missed a large section of games. Now, to Pickens' credit, and one of the things that he's getting a lot of praise for, was a lot of people just saying this kid could have just mailed it in.
Hmm. Right.
He could have just said, "Look, I'm coming back off this injury. My draft stock's probably set for the most part anyway. Why am I going to go out there and it just got he wants to play. He wanted to compete, and I think he said as much during his combine, or not combine, but pro day interview recently as well too. That's the kind of guy he is, and that speaks, I think, large to some teams, having a guy like that,
Sure.
super physical guy, likes to block, kind of a bully of sorts, which obviously the Steelers will like that aspect of him. Ability to stretch the field down, quite a few of those kind of deep down the field diving out in front of him, fingertip catches that you'd like to see, and large selection of explosive plays, obviously, on that. So I think it's fair for Alex to think that there's a chance that he would be on the board in the 2nd round, to be honest with you.
And I think Pickens' desire and ability to come back speaks well to Pittsburgh. How much they praise Juju for coming back for the wild card game. Pittsburgh really loves the competitive, hearts and smarts kind of guy. And I wouldn't begrudge Pickens for not trying to come back and focus on the draft. I have no problem with that. But I think Pittsburgh, Colbert in particular, and Tomlin will love that fact about George Pickens.
He's a good kid too, from what I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah. And again, hearts and smarts, that's what the Steelers really look for over the last 4 or 5 drafts. Next question comes from Acoos53. Hey, Alex, what season did the Steelers' end result stray furthest from your preseason expectations, good or bad? Having a hard time projecting how this team will be. And I'm just curious. I really don't remember. I remember last year's projections. I mean, after 2 years, if you're going back 2 years, I forget entirely about what I predicted the team would be. Last year I think Dave and I were pretty much lockstep at 9-8, and they finished 9-7-1, so they were right there. But I'm sure I've been off before. I don't think I expected them to win. What was it, 12 games in 2020? So I was probably off. I think probably did like 10-6 that year. But I'm not sure if I've ever been tremendously off. Maybe in 19 because Ben getting hurt. I'm not sure what my prediction was there. But last year Dave and I were pretty close.
Yeah, and I think the last couple of years, you obviously can't predict things like Roethlisberger's injury, and I think even then, I think maybe had him 10 or 11 wins or something. I usually go 10-6, obviously before the schedule, because that's who the Steelers have been for years. They've been a 10-6 team, it seems like. So if we've missed in the past, it's probably been 2 games either side, something like that. But it's not anything that I track, and obviously in no way, shape, or form ready to put any predictions on where this team will be right now. I will say though that you got the depending on how much Watson's able to play in 2022. You look at the quarterbacks in the AFC North. Steelers are going to have their hands full, and it all starts with the AFC North. You've got to be able to win at least 4 games in the division if you're going to compete, and think that you're going to have a shot at, not only making the playoffs, but making a deep run there. And obviously, the Steelers haven't had any kind of run past a wild card game in several years now. And you just look at the quarterback position alone. Yeah, they did what they had to do with Trubisky, and they're doing what they have to do on both sides of the football, adding offensive linemen, adding inside linebacker, and adding depth all the way around. But this is still a team that's going to have to be damn near perfect on both sides of the ball to really help Trubisky
Mhm.
win some games. The defense is going to have to be fantastic. They're going to have to be able to run the football and take a lot of the onus off Mitch Trubisky. So we'll see how the rest of these next couple of weeks play out, and obviously the draft and all like that. But man, they're gonna have their hands full.
Yeah, their style and mentality will have to be a lot different than the other AFC North teams, but they'll be competitive as they always are, and so we'll see what happens. 102 people here in the chat. Thank you guys for hanging out with us again. Be sure to answer or send in your Steelers questions to be answered by Dave and I. Mark Ralston says, what would you guys, I'm sorry, he wrote this wrong. What would your guys' next free agent signing be with current available money and also with the money from a Watt and Hayward restructure? We'll see. The biggest holes right now, Mark, are slot receiver, strong safety, obviously long term at quarterback. That will not be addressed now. Trubisky's your veteran bridge guy, so I assume they're going to sign veterans at both those positions, at slot receiver and strong safety. Could Edmonds come back? Certainly. Tyrann Mathieu. We'll see what his decision is. That's kind of the big buzz right now. There's a lot of smoke, but really not a lot of fire right now. In slot receiver, I'm not sure what they're going to do there, but those are the two positions to look at.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with a guy like maybe Jarvis Landry, a guy that kind of fits from a locker room perspective, a guy that could serve as kind of a bridge. They need to. They are going to do something, I have a feeling, between now and the draft when it comes to a more kind of veteran wide receiver. Now, there's not much out there. The one kid from the Colts, who did he sign with?
Zach Pascal to the Eagles.
To the Eagles there. So he's off the board. That happened today. It's getting kind of thin there. I think you've been pushing the button for the Steelers to possibly make a trade with the Jaguars there to get that young receiver over there. The Steelers had a little bit of I think eyes for there not too terribly long ago. Kind of a guy that can work out of the slot that would
Chenault, yeah, Laviska
yeah.
Chenault.
Laviska Chenault, and I remember watching a lot, doing some film breakdowns on him as well too, and that would obviously fit as well, and it still would not prevent this team from addressing either the slot or the Z position in the draft. The problem is draft capital. Obviously, if you were to trade for a guy like Laviska Chenault, you're probably going to give up, you would think, maybe a 2023 draft pick of some sort to get a player like that, or can you just count on upgrading even over a player like that maybe in the draft and get someone on the field right away. It's no secret that a guy like Sky Moore out of Western Michigan probably has the Steelers eye. Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. I mean, Alex and I just talked about how deep this wide receiver. Whatever flavor you want, really, when it comes to X and Y and Z positions in this draft, you can get throughout this draft. Now they'll obviously have the guys that they quote unquote like, and don't forget about my boy Tompkins too. I'm so mad he did not get a combine invite. And I don't know where he's going to go in this draft because look, we've seen players not get invited to the draft and still wind up third, fourth, fifth round guys. Kevin Dotson, a perfect example of that. I don't know on what planet a guy that has put up the stats that he did at Utah State and made the kind of the catches that he had and the scoring that he had. How a guy like Tompkins got snubbed there, and he is small, yeah, but let me tell you, if he lasted on into, I don't know, fifth, sixth, seventh round, I'm not sure he's going to fall that far. But if he did, I run a card up on that guy because I want to see what he can do at the NFL level.
Yeah, and again, the slot receiver market's thin. I was even thinking about Jameson Crowder, but he just signed the Bills to replace the released Cole Beasley. You did mention Keanu Neal the other day, and I saw a report he's going back to safety. So could that
Okay.
be an option if Edmonds falls through, if Matthews does not materialize? maybe. But those are the positions, and we'll see what the names are at some point.
Here's my thought, real quick, on
Hmm.
safety. I mean, I understand the fascination with a guy like Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, and all like that. But I mean, at this point, if not him, I mean, go back to the devil that you know in Terrell Edmonds, because something like that, and now his market value, I would guess, is somewhere 2 years 6 million, 2 years 8 million, right around in there. And signing him to a contract like that would not prevent you from still addressing that position in the draft. You had the Maryland kid in your mock draft earlier
Hmm.
today. Uh, Nothing would prevent you even re-signing Edmonds at even 2 years, 8 million, if you structured the thing the same way that Levi Wallace and Keller Witherspoon, their deals were structured. If things go south, and you want to move on from them after 2022, or you have a better option there, you can cut bait that way. But to me, at this point, I think you're kind of looking at a guy like, either we'll see, whatever happens with Tyrann Mathieu, and if not that way, I say, why not re-sign Edmonds and then address the position in the draft?
Nicholas McKay, I've seen a lot of hype for quarterback Trubisky from Steeler Nation. I'm not disappointed in the signing nor hyped. I think it's just a good one. I just want your thoughts on him. Quick thoughts. I wasn't crazy about the guy. I think every coach thinks they can fix the former failed first round pick. Very few do. But I recognize it's not going to wreck the Steelers long term. It's a good contract overall, a lot less than what people thought. And overall, I get the scheme fit, the pedigree there, who can run some of the bootlegs and play action and run Canada's offense. So I understand the signing. We'll see what happens. Pittsburgh will be a good, stable place for him. He'll work with a good quarterbacks coach in Mike Sullivan, but I'm not holding out hope that this guy's going to turn into the. I'm trying to make a Cinderella reference here. Glass slipper, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here for the Steelers.
Once again, it goes back to surrounding him to help him win games. Plain and simple. You better be able to run the football. You better, I think it's, obviously scoring points is where it's at now. How many teams, if you look at some of the quarterbacks and some of the movements that have gone around in off-season and free agency, a lot of that's happened more so, I think, in the AFC than it has in the NFC, at least from my vantage point here. You know, there are going to be some teams that might be able to put up some points. So, how the Steelers defense plays in particular will be a big cog in this thing, and especially against run. If you're able to get guys like Tyson Alualu back, we'll see still what happens with Stephon Tuitt. You got to keep those you got to keep those linebackers cleaner this year, and let them be able to run and chase and make those tackles. You can't give up the big plays. Boy, the big plays they gave up on the ground, and not just the big plays, right, Alex? It's one thing to give up an explosive play and an explosive play on the ground, but the double and the triple explosive plays, man, those you just can't have those. And especially with the shape that this team was in offensively last year. So they've got to do a lot of different things on both sides of the football. To be able to make Trubisky work. If you put Trubisky in some good situations like that and don't make him have to win games week in and week out, you're going to have a chance at winning some ball games there, because he is a capable quarterback to a degree, and that's why you're paying him 7 point what is 0.25, whatever the average per value is so far. Remember, this is a kid that only played 30 offensive snaps in last season and attempted 8 passes. So you got a lot of faith in there.
Quality Colas saying, Dave speaking facts, best podcast ever. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here in these weekly streams. Mike Adesso said, Neil back to the Cowboys. I think it was announced. I know they re-signed J-Ron Curse. I don't believe they re-signed Neil. I could be wrong about that, but I know it was Curse, and that might be who you're thinking of, Mike. All right, let me scroll back up here, find the next question. Let's see. This will come from Ross Swisher. Dave, how come Edmonds hasn't been signed? Is the safety market that bad right now?
I think, the safety market is always kind of flat, especially
Yeah.
that, the type of player he is. It's really a short list of the have before you get to the have-nots there. And who knows? I mean, he at this point, I would imagine Edmonds has a couple of offers in hand. I would think maybe he's looking at a situation where maybe he's trying to find himself a 1-year deal somewhere, where a base of I don't know, I'm just going to throw out some numbers, a base of around $3 million with up to, I don't know, $7, $8 million, something along those lines, to give him maybe one more chance to, to increase his value so he can hit free agency again. I can guarantee you, if the Steelers have any deal on the table for Terrell Edmunds, it's a 2 or 3 year deal, and it's at a market value less than what his fifth year option amount would have been this year, which was what, like 6 point something million, that they obviously didn't pick up, well over a year ago there. I'm willing to bet right now. I bet he's got the offer in hand, and I bet he's just trying to shop it around, see what he can do. He probably doesn't want to tie himself up for 2 or 3 years at an average yearly value of around 4 million, which, let's face it, is probably his value.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he's wanting to see if he can get a 1 year deal where maybe he can, maybe up his market value there. So I mean, who knows really? I don't have. I mean, that's just me speculating of what might be taking so long. But when you kind of see what's happening now, look, we're in what they officially call phase 2 of free agency right now. So that's when you're going to start seeing things, I think, pick up a little bit more as this week goes on here. And I would imagine at some point this week, Edmonds makes a decision on where he's going to go.
Speaking of available safeties, Wes Hickok, is there any chance we sign Tyrann Mathieu? What exactly are they doing at receiver? Kind of addressed receiver a little bit ago with Mathieu. Could they? Sure. Would it be a slow surprise to me? It probably would. Knowing you're going to have to pay Minka. I don't know what Matthew's market's going to go for. Not at the Minka level. It's not going to be 15 million, but it's still going to be, a fairly decent price tag. But could they afford it? And I know you've clarified this very valiantly, Dave. But certainly Pittsburgh, if they wanted to sign Tyrann Mathieu, they have the means, they have the money to do so.
Yeah, it's not a matter of can they afford it, not only from a cash but a cap perspective, as well too. And I would imagine that they kind of like him. I think Tyrann's done a great job since the early days of his NFL career, repairing his image. Heck, wasn't he a Walter Payton of the band nominee or whatnot? Just recently here, and I think you look at his own personal website, man, all the foundations that he has. So he speaks to the kind of player that I think the Steelers would like. Mike Tomlin in past press conferences obviously has spoke glowingly of Tyrann Mathieu in the past, so it's hard to imagine them not liking him. It's just, do they still value his skill set at his age? What is his value related to his skill set? This is another guy that he's not just going to sign a 1 year deal with you, or the Steelers are not just going to sign him to a 1 year deal, because that's not the way they work. They're going to look to try to get if indeed they have interest in Tyrann Mathieu, it's probably going to be a two-year deal. And believe it or not, if they do sign him, I imagine that contract would look exactly like the contract that Miles Jack just signed. 2 years, $16 million, split right down the middle, 8 million a year there. That's what I think that the Steelers would. I don't think the Steelers would go any higher than that with him, and maybe he's having a hard time of thinking, I'm coming off of a deal where my average yearly value is like 13 million. Have I dropped that much? And he is still a tick under 30. I think he turns 30 in May or something like that there. So whether or not, what's the probability? I mean, I can't answer that. You'd read some of this trash on Twitter, and there's so many fake accounts, and you don't know who to believe, unless it's coming from like an Adam Schefter or any of those bigger names. I don't think any of those guys have mentioned the Steelers being linked to him yet. Maybe that changes by tonight. So they definitely could. If they wanted to. I don't think they would go anywhere over 9 million per year. And maybe Tyrann is looking for a 1 year deal where he can maybe repair his values. So I don't know. All I can tell everybody is just kind of be patient for the next, 48 hours or so, and we'll probably find out where Tyrann's going.
Right. $5 super chat from Evan Bauman. What's your dream scenario for the rest of free agency, then the draft? Love the content. Thank you, Evan. I'm not sure what the dream is. I don't really think about it too much in those terms. I think you want to go sign a veteran strong safety, which I'm positive they will. I think they'll look at a veteran slot receiver. I think they probably will. It's just hard to find who that name is and what guy really fits there. And then for Asian, or in terms of the draft, if you can go get a top quarterback you love, that'd be ideal. You know, from there, I don't have an exact way to tick off the boxes. It just kind of depends on what starts at the top. So I guess I don't have a great answer for you, but I think Pittsburgh's positioned themselves well with a lot of options and flexibility for the rest of free agency and especially for the draft.
I think you're going to obviously see a couple of more re-signings. We'll see about a guy like Edmonds, but once you get past a guy like Edmonds, then I think that kind of the rest of the people that they might have interest in re-signing would be the 1 year vet benefit deals. And what is a vet benefit deal? It's a minimum salary for that player's tenured years in the league, plus the maximum the signing bonus could be. It's gone up, I think, from last year. It was 137,500 was last year. I forgot to look what it is this year. It's not much more than that overall there. And the beauty about getting a guy on a 1 year vet benefit contract is it keeps his cap charge way down because he assumes a base cap charge value of what a second year player would cost versus what he is, and a lot of times these are fourth, fifth, 6 year kind of players and all like that. And Kevin Colbert has no problem, and usually the only guaranteed money that comes along, or really the only guaranteed money that comes along with that is the $100,000+ signing bonus there. So it doesn't marry you to the guy if you want to cut him. So I would look for guys who knows like Taco Charlton. I know a lot of people aren't going to go outside and run outside and take their shirt off and run around the block. Kalen Ballage might be a guy that you see, them re-sign for a camp body there. And, we'll see a guy like Edmonds. Now, your terrible take today was about outside linebackers, right, Alex? And, whew, certainly, I guess my dream scenario would be, and unfortunately, there's not a lot out there right now in free agency. You'd like to see them get, add to that outside linebacker room. Not only add to it, but a guy that can play special teams. Is Ola Adeni, I think, is still out there, right? And I think he's a free agent. Might you be able to get him back on a 2 year, I don't know, $4 million, $5 million contract, something along those lines. So my dream scenario would include a veteran type slot receiver to get you, through to whoever the next guy is going to be there. Obviously, an outside linebacker, Alex Mitch. You better do something at safety. They'll do
Yeah.
something at safety there. But I think that's where it would start before we get to the draft.
And one of those edge names mentioned in my terrible take was Kyler Fackrell, who signed about an hour after my take posted. He signed somewhere else, I don't
Oh,
remember where, but not in Pittsburgh. So yeah, it's pretty thin out there. $5 super chat from Steel Pastor. No comment there, but thank you so much. Actually, the comments
and
coming in.
Derek Barnes a free agent too, but the problem with I think there's issues with his motor a little bit
Yeah.
there, and I don't think he's that great of a special teams player either, if memory serves me.
Steel Pastor's comment. In your opinion, what current NFL free agent wide receiver is best at stacking DBs? What about in this year's draft? In free agency, I think Valdez Scantling, he's going to cost a pretty penny. Probably not going to come to Pittsburgh, but he's been a real true deep threat. One of the arguably the best deep threat in football the last 3 years. And then Marquise Goodwin, the Olympic track star, who's on my list way back when. Just cheap speed, not going to offer much else, but this dude can still fly at 31 years old. In terms of the draft, a little less clear there, but there's definitely going to be some burners. That fast track at Indy, those guys are burning up some 4.4s and some 4.3s at the combine. So there's a lot of speed. Jahan Dotson, I'm a big fan overall of Jahan Dotson's game.
Yeah, they're going to like him for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lou Boy, if Anthony Miller gets playing time with James Daniels, being old teammates to Trubisky, will do fine. I mean, it didn't work great for the Bears back then. I mean, they're all older and wiser and all that. But yeah, a lot of Bears getting back together. And so I just think Daniels was a good signing. And Miller, we'll see if he gets time. He'll have an opportunity. I'm sure we'll see what he can do in training camp this year. But I think Pittsburgh will certainly look at, and that wide receiver room will look substantially different come training camp compared to how it looks right now.
I mean, when you look at all the experience and plus the pedigree, right? With Anthony Miller's pedigree, you look at all the time he spent with Chicago. He's got snaps all over offenses. Previously coming to Pittsburgh, could he just not pick up the what was it that led to he can't even get snaps over a guy like bless his heart, Ray McLeod,
Right.
even later on in the season, I understand coming in, having to pick things up. Maybe he a little bit slower in learning the offense. Maybe Ben just didn't want him in there. I don't know. Those kind of things like that. I mean, because this guy, he does have. There's a lot of good tape on Anthony Miller. And man, I don't know how many people may have forgot about that Thanksgiving Day game a couple years ago against Bears versus the Lions. There, he had a big game, a couple of deep passes down the field, a couple of shorter catches. I mean, I think he can run the whole route tree
Hmm.
there, that kind of stuff, and obviously should be able to work out a slot. But I mean, I'd be higher on him right now, except for the fact that I'm having a hard time understanding why he couldn't crack it with the Steelers late last year. You
Right.
know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We'll see what he can do. At least he came back. I'll go through a couple of questions here pretty rapid fire to catch up a little bit, some of the more recent ones, and I'll go back to the top. John Davis, is Trey Turner playing for us this year? No, he is not re signed. He will not re sign. I don't imagine that he would. Russ, don't worry about the super chat. Not sure what the issue is, but just appreciate you being here. Let's see. Someone was asking Creek Z, is it a risk to sign Julio Jones? Yeah, I wouldn't sign Julio. I'm not sure what his role is. He can't stay healthy. He'll probably go back to Indy and reunite with Matt Ryan. The Colts need receiver help. No chance at Jarvis. I assume that means Jarvis Landry. There's a chance. I
I
think
think I
Davis.
think there's a chance there
Yeah.
probably. I wouldn't think I don't know why there wouldn't be a chance at this point.
Right. I think the reports and rumors are he's going to go back to the Browns. We'll see what happens there, but there's certainly a chance. Someone was asking about, I can't remember about Matthew. That was some of the rumors out there. Yeah, there's some accounts that are very untrustworthy. So let's just wait and see what happens on Tyrann Mathieu. Any other ones that kind of caught my attention? Is Ray Ray gone? Yeah, Ray Ray signed with the 49ers. Will Gunner be our number 3 receiver? No, he'll be a special teamer, kind of back end guy that'll do kicks, punts, and on the coverage unit. So they'll add some people there as well. And Bob, I think Dave outlined his thoughts on Anthony Miller pretty well. Let me go back up here to the top and find some of the other questions from earlier. Again, appreciate everybody here in the live stream. Dave and I with you guys for another 20 minutes or so. Do you see the Steelers signing a receiver in free agency? Seems like Crowder or Pascal would have been good cheap fits to fill in. Yeah, they would have been, but obviously they're off the board. Yes, I see them signing a receiver, but it is hard to know and really identify what name that's going to be, Tyler.
At this point too, man, you look at the list,
Yeah.
you look at the available guys, and what they can do, and what they what they might offer you on offense, and at what price. The pickings are starting to get slim at several positions already.
Yeah, the Pickens are slim, so go get George Pickens in the draft.
There you
That's,
go.
hey, be here all
Hey,
week.
you'll be tip your waitress,
We've
folks.
done this thing too long. We think alike. Bernard Johnson, do you think a receiver at 20 is necessary like Jameson Williams, Jahan, Olive, or do you believe the Steelers could get more from waiting later or a guy like Pickens or more? Yeah, I'm not going to rule out a receiver at 20, Bernard, but I think second, third round's been their sweet spot. That's where the depth of this draft really presents itself. So I think second round, pick 52, pick 84 is a lot more likely than pick 20.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I obviously wouldn't bet my house that they won't draft one in the first round. But if I were to bet on, I would bet on them not drafting one in the first round, and second or third round just seems almost like you can write that down at this point.
Yeah. Jason Bodine, he's provided the phonetics. I may have been saying that incorrectly before. I apologize, so thank you for the refresher. Jason Bodine, hello, Daleks. I still just can't get on board with Willis at 20 when our O-line, D-line could use a Kenyon, a Zion, a Trevor, a Jordan, a Devontae. What say ye? I understand that, but listen, from the Steelers' perspective, right or wrong, if you think he's the franchise guy, if any of these quarterbacks are the franchise guy, they can put you in contention with the other great quarterbacks in the AFC and the NFL, then you take that guy. And you've improved this O line enough. If Tua comes back defensively, then you're in really good shape there. So the quarterback trumps all. That is the ace in the hole. If you can get that guy, then you get that guy. If you can't, then you look elsewhere. But quarterback comes first.
If and we people tend to think, well, why do you guys like Malik so much and want this and want that? We try to look at this more at what we think the Steelers will do, and at least to me, and I think Alex's mock draft kind of reflects this morning as well too. Where we're at this point of the offseason now, and then you throw into all the comments Mike Tomlin had to say about the mobility during the year, and you throw in all, you go back to the Senior Bowl and how much smoke seemed to be coming out of there with the attraction to Willis. Obviously, Tuesday is a big day, the
Mm-hmm.
Liberty Pro Day. I mean, I'll be quite shocked if Matt Canada, Mike Tomlin, and Kevin Colbert aren't at that pro day. And heck, I mean, you track down Mike. Good job by that
Thank you.
on that, by the way, man. Ain't nothing, but nobody gets nothing past you, man. For those that don't know, Alex tracked down Mike Sullivan at the Nevada Pro Day today, out in Reno, I think, checking in on Carson Strong out there. I don't know how much there is just due diligence, I would think, and I would imagine Mike Sullivan looking at guys like Romeo Dubs out there
Mhm.
and Cole Turner. I mean, obviously they've got 3 or 4 guys that are going to be worth drafting out of that program there. But I might be a little surprised if Mike Sullivan doesn't make the trip even down to the Liberty Pro Day over there. But long story short, man, I've had this feeling now for a while now. It just feels like they're setting themselves up to do whatever they can do to draft Malik Willis in
Yeah.
the first round. And whether that's the right decision or not, we'll have plenty of time to obviously to debate that if it winds up happening. I will just, and this has been my thoughts on Malik for those that have read and listened to what I've had to say. He's got the most upside to
Mhm.
me when it comes to this quarterback class. He's kind of that new age quarterback with a mobility, can extend plays, but for every oh my God play he has, he's got a oh my God play to go along with it.
Yeah.
So, it's a guy that would have to sit out his rookie season on the bench. You try to bring him along slowly there. But if you want to look, I mean, I'm still buying everything the Steelers are selling, at least what I think they're selling when it comes to Malik Willis. And if they do draft him, we'll have plenty of time to debate whether or not it's the right or wrong choice.
Real quick comment on Strong, and I want to get to some more of these questions, but I think that caught my attention because rarely do you see Pittsburgh send their guys out west unless they already are like west area scouts like Mark Bruner, Chidi
Yeah.
Iwoma, guys like that. And that tells me they're at least fairly comfortable with the medical because they know the medical on Carson Strong now. If they really crossed them off because of the medical, because of the knee stuff, they wouldn't send Sullivan out there. So
Okay.
that's a round 2 guys, not a day 1 guy. So Tom and Colbert really don't quote unquote have to be there. But that caught my attention a good bit actually.
Okay. And, everybody knows how I feel. I mean, look, the kid just can't move.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. But if you could, will he have a life in the NFL? Well, but you damn sure better have an offensive line that can block for him. And in my opinion, you better run the air raid. To be quite honest with you, because he
Yeah.
he knows it inside and out. And if who knows how long that knee will hold up for him moving forward there. So if a team was to draft him, man, I would try to do a lot of the thing. I would try to get him on the field as soon as possible, and B, I would try to run his the air raid if at all possible. If I could work that, or at least several elements of it into my offense there, because he's a very smart kid. I think he's got at least good enough arm strength overall. There, it's just he better be able to move like Tom Brady moves in the pocket,
Right.
because if not, he's going to have a lot of sacks.
Let me go through some more of these questions, kind of a bit quicker. Corey S. Would you rather have Honey Badger or Edmonds? Assuming Badger is a lot more expensive, would you rather have Edmonds for $4 million per year or Badger for $8 million per year, Dave? I know where I'm going.
Yeah, I'd rather have, I think, Honey Badger
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
price.
Easily, because they can
That
afford it. They
guy,
can afford it.
yeah, they can afford it there. So, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's one or the other, really, when it comes to that, because
Hmm.
and people say, oh, there's no way Tyrann Mathieu will sign for that kind of low money. Well, if that were the case, he'd be signed by now, I think. If he
Yeah.
was going to get more than 8 million per, I kind of feel like he probably would have signed by now.
Yeah.
So it really makes a lot of sense if the Steelers were to sign him for that contract to look exactly like the Miles Jack contract, 2 years, 16 million.
Duck Swagger's Linderbaum still in play at 20. I'm not going to say no, but Iowa's Pro Day was today, and Tomlin and Colbert obviously were not there, so history says no. So I guess maybe I'm closer to saying no than I thought I would be.
Yeah, history says no.
So there you go. Carl World, at this point, strong safety is the biggest hole to fill. Can you see Pittsburgh drafting a safety at 20? If so, who? They don't get a
Lewis
Matthew.
Sign.
I think Lewis Sign's a great name. It's very Edmonds-like in terms of that super athlete, physical dude that's just a big hitter. Now, I think even a bigger hitter. Sign is a bigger hitter than Edmonds was coming out of Virginia Tech. So as a name to watch, I think it is Lewis Sign from Georgia. And
Mm-hmm.
again, the Tomlin Colbert Pro Day checks those boxes. Russ loves the Miles Jack signing. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's a good signing. David says, "Are we spared of more Baker ads?" Yeah, I think the Baker in Cleveland ads are finally done. The Baker in Seattle doesn't maybe quite have the ring to it.
I don't know.
Happy.
Those Hulu ones are right.
Oh god, those were horrible. Ugh. Happy Monday, Dave and Alex. That's from Kevin in ABQ. Is that Albuquerque? ABQ.
Oh yeah, that's Buddy Kevin in
All right,
Albuquerque.
good to hear
Yeah.
from you, Kevin.
New Mexico. Kevin, we was back up there again recently. Man, my wife loves Santa Fe, man. I don't know. We'll probably hang on here, probably 5 more years in Vegas or so. If we do move elsewhere at this point, I can promise you we'll be going to Santa Fe. My wife
Oh,
loves it that much there.
there you go. I see Duck Swagger trying to trip me up in the comments here. I'm seeing you, Duck Swagger. You're not catching me this time. Maybe next time. Quality
What's
Colos
he trying to get you?
on a prospect who does not exist. It's
Oh,
just a funny play on
oh,
words there, but
it's not. Hey, would you blow me?
it's something similar. But YouTube strike confirmed. Dave and Alex, any thoughts at first glance from Pickett's pro day? I just watched it casually. You probably saw more than I did, Dave. It's a pro day. They're scripted. I don't generally put a lot of stock in the quarterback workout.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, it's on air. It's all scripted. There are a couple of deep ones off the mark and all like that, but yeah, he better be. He better have looked
Yeah,
good. Fit. What was it? 50. I don't know. 56 throws or something like that, and nothing stood out to me, and the only thing that stood out to me is the Panthers were all over them. And afterwards, Matt Rule and the general manager and the offensive coordinator were all over there on the side, and Pickett, they wanted to see him stretch out his hand and put it on the football, and those kind of things. So I really think that they have maybe Kenny Pickett in their sights at
yeah.
6 overall.
I think that's certainly possible. Rule tried to recruit him, Pickett, when Rule was at Temple. Kevin from Albuquerque says thoughts on the Steelers trading down in round one to pick up additional draft capital. I'm almost always in favor of the idea. Pittsburgh is generally not, so I'd be all for it, but I doubt it happens.
Yeah, look, I mean, uh, obviously, if they had a shot to maybe get someone that they really like there, but I mean, I think in this draft, with the kind of holes that they would have, you can make good arguments for wanting that to happen. And really, there's not many years that you couldn't think about where it wouldn't hurt a lot of people's feelings if it happens. It's just the Steelers don't tend to do that.
Right, right. Let's see, 007. What do you think about what the Browns had to give up to get Watson, and now they're giving up more than initially reported? It's 6 picks in total, I
Yeah.
believe. It's a lot. It's crazy. It's not the draft capital; it's the guaranteed contract, $230 million. That's resetting the market. It's pretty wild, but that is why teams go after quarterbacks. They know the value of it, so it's pretty shocking, but in a sense, not surprising.
I mean, it's certainly a sell your soul type of things, and if you miss on this, it can set you back a couple years for sure,
Yeah,
right?
easily, and they will be fired if
Uh,
this does not work. Stefanski,
right,
Barry, they are gone.
right. I mean, and they're going to want results regardless of whatever the games that Watson gets sat down when he is in there. They're gonna want, because there's going to be so much back. If this thing goes sideways on them with the Browns this season for whatever reason, and Watson gets in there and doesn't play well, I mean, they could be out of there that quick. I mean, we've seen times in the past. I think Stefanski. I don't know how much leeway they would give him, but definitely on into next year. They've got that kind of money and investment and all like that. I mean, Cleveland right now thinks that by the end of 2023 season they should have a Super Bowl or have a
Yeah.
Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah, that the bar set that high. Couple of super chats. One from Lou Boy, another one. Thank you so much. $5 super chat. What's up with Carl Joseph? Still a free agent, as far as I know. Correct? Was not re-signed to a reserve contract. Correct?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure he
think
wasn't, because someone asked me this like last week, and I checked the Steelers site to make sure, and I do not believe Joseph appears on the roster. So I believe he is still a street free, or not a street. Well,
Yeah,
what are you going to call him? Free
yeah,
agent.
he would be a street
Trade free
agent.
agent.
Yeah,
Okay.
at this point now. Yeah, I mean he's not on my salary cap list here.
So
So Yeah.
There you go. Dion Johnson, another $5 super chat. Thank you. Says, hi there. I love Sign later in the first round. However, do you envision a Palomalu type move on Hamilton? Do you think he may fall due to a slower 40 time just pipe dreaming? Yeah, I mean, he may slip a little bit, but we're talking like not top 5, top 10. And I don't see Pittsburgh trading up draft capital in a year where they need a quarterback for Kyle Hamilton. I'm a big fan of Hamilton. To me, the best prospect in this class is Kyle Hamilton. The 40 time was not great on that fast Indy track, but I don't see a way Pittsburgh gets him.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't see any way that he becomes a Steeler.
About 10 minutes left here, almost 200 people here in the chat. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who's visited the channel during free agency. Seen a lot of growth there, so appreciate that, and certainly reflected in
I
tonight's
just
live
I
stream.
just researched this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL database here on January the 24th. There were 4 guys on the Steelers practice squad that had their contracts expire. Rashad Coward, Carl Joseph, Anthony Miller, and John Simon. Miller and Simon have obviously, I think, re-signed with the Steelers. Coward signed with somebody, didn't he?
Yeah, I can't remember where, but not Pittsburgh, obviously.
And Carl Joseph remains on the street right now.
All right, so thank you for confirming that. So Joseph is a free agent. A couple more questions we'll get to. Actually, super chats coming in. These might have been your delayed ones, Russ. Just there's one for $1, one for $5. So thank you so much. No comments there, but appreciate if I see a comment from yours while I'm scrolling. I'll read it out. I bet my Harley the Browns do not win a Super Bowl with Watson. So Russ, that confident. Watson is not the answer for Cleveland. Let's see, couple more questions. Let me find, kind of going back up to the top here. Jonathan Mason was asking, are we optimistic that Canada can help this offense succeed? It's a big year for him. It's kind of his offense this year. There's no excuses about the compromise with him and Ben. So jury's still out. Year 1, not great overall, but year 2, even though he might not have elite quarterback talent, you're not going to get it past the second time. So I guess that's kind of an outstanding question. But I'm not going to say that he's incapable or that he cannot do it.
Look, I mean, we're going to really see what his offense is about, right? You know,
Yeah, 100%.
Now, we'll see how much maybe he was handcuffed last year because of what Ben, wanted or demanded to run. So RPO, shift, pre-snap motion, quarterback under center, jet sweeps, play action. You ought to see all of it. And boy, they're going to have to come together real quick as a group too. And that's another thing about this. You got a guy coming in, even though Mitch Trubisky's in now, obviously studying the playbook and all. You definitely don't want these guys missing time during the OTA programs, and you get into training camp, and boy, keep your fingers crossed everybody stays healthy, because they need to keep this group, whatever first string offense that they have, they need to get that group a lot of work throughout the offseason here. But is he capable? I mean, we'll see. That's about the best way that we can answer. We'll see elements a lot more. We'll see his offense, plain and simple. We'll be able to say, well, this is the Matt Canada offense right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'll post either an article or a tweet. Like, I have a list written down about like the differences in philosophy about a Ben run offense or Ben led offense versus a Trubisky led offense, and yeah, they're going to be pretty night and day. Mark Tobin, do you think we take a corner or receiver at 20 based on our moves in free agency? Both are possible. I think receiver more likely than corner right now, given the fact that you brought back Witherspoon and signed Levi Wallace from Buffalo. But I think quarterback's still the position that you certainly cannot ignore, given all the aggressive moves Pittsburgh has made in free agency so far.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's out of the question when it comes to wide receiver or corner. Look, the way Kevin Colbert's done this offseason so far, and we'll see how these next couple of moves do. He's got him set up where himself up where he can go a lot of different directions. That for sure. I'm buying the aspect that Mike Tomlin thinks a guy like Jordan Davis will be off the board.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a fan of people saying, "Oh, he'll be gone for sure" type. But I mean, I think there's a good 10 or 12 guys that you can just go ahead and scratch off, right?
Yeah.
More than likely. And now I tell you what, if Jordan Davis did fall down to him, I bet Tomlin would have a a little prayer meeting there.
Yeah, as in a thank you God prayer. Yeah, I think because what Dexter Lawrence went 17th, Vita Vea went I think like 12th or 14th. I think Jordan Davis better than both of those guys, so I don't see him dropping to 20. Let's see. I had one here from Steel Pastor. Do you think Mike Tomlin has any future desires in team management? GM Tomlin, Coach Brian Flores. Tomlin loves football, but I think he loves coaching football. He loves being around the ball every single day and coaching and leading men. And GM's a little less of that day to day and more the big picture stuff. So I don't know what's in his head, and who knows what things look like 10, 15, 20 years from now. But I think Tomlin wants to be a coach for as long as he can be a coach.
Yeah, he loves the process,
He
man.
does. He's
He
pro day, man. He's
loves.
everywhere. Him and
Oh,
Colbert.
he would go to every pro day.
Yeah.
Even if he could get to 5 pro days a day, he would. I think he would do that. He loves the Senior Bowl. He loves the process, and he loves coaching. I think so. Never say never, but I feel like he feels like his place is with the whistle around his neck and on the football field. I mean, he loves the process so much.
Yeah, it's a little Belichick in the fact, and all these coaches love football, obviously, but just like this hardcore appreciation for like Belichick will go to any pro day, big, small. Tomlin doesn't go to the small pro days, but like he just loves football. I mean, again, at the Senior Bowl that Wednesday it was super rainy. There's like hardly anyone on the field, and Tomlin's standing there just getting drenched, but does not care because he just loves getting the chance to watch these guys up close and personal. 007, what do you think about Juju going bye-bye? Not surprised by it. Chance to go, play with Mahomes and try to win there. That makes a lot of sense. And Dave had a really good discussion today on the podcast. So go back and check that out about, I don't know, early on in the show about why the Chiefs offer was probably structured in a way that Pittsburgh was not going to match it.
Yeah, I have a thread on the Twitter machine if you want to look at that. And Alex and I spent a good, I don't know, 10, 12 minutes, I think, somewhere early in the podcast if you want to go back and listen to it this morning. I mean, it's, I don't know for sure that's the way it went down, but I'm willing to bet I'm pretty damn close with all that, just from, knowing the Steelers from a contract structure, aspect and just looking at the deal that we have the numbers in on what Juju got and just putting all the pieces together. I'm willing to bet I'm not off, if any, on my speculation on that.
Cut more, Damian L. Thoughts on Malik Willis being on many betting sites as the favorite to land the number 2 pick in Detroit. It's possible, not going to rule it out. It does feel a bit high, but again, if that's your guy, that's your guy. So, I'm not going to say no to that. We'll see what Jacksonville does at 1. It sounds like it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson. So, and they don't need a tackle. The Lions don't after drafting Sewell. So I'm not sure what direction Detroit's going to go.
Yeah, here's the thing that I keep going back to with Malik Willis is, man, you better have it in place where the coach, where the organization doesn't feel like they have to. If you're going to draft Malik Willis, man, I think you will ruin that kid if you play him a bunch his rookie season.
Mhm.
Or I'll just say this: I don't think you're going to be doing him any favors if you do something like that. So some of these organizations, they're just not very patient when it comes to stuff like that. And are you going to take a guy number 2 knowing that the best thing for him is to sit the bench the entire 2022 season? That's where I struggle the most with kind of wondering where a guy like Malik might go.
Yeah, but I think Dan Campbell would have time in Detroit. I think he's building on the right direction, so I think that'd be a spot where he'd be afforded a year to let Willis develop on the bench.
Okay.
Nathan was asking about Quan White from South Carolina, the running back. I'm familiar at a baseline kind of bio level with him. I know this is the other running back as well. Another guy was telling me about Kevin Harris. I know White was at the combine. I think his testing was decent. Seems like a good athlete, but I don't know too much about him beyond that. So you probably know more about Zaquandre White than I do, Nathan. Let's see. Couple more questions before Dave and I head out. And again, thank you for everyone who's hung out with us and joined the live stream. Ross Swisher, not a question, but a comment. Mason will start by week 4. All right, we'll see what happens there. Somebody says Will is starting week 6. So we'll see who's right, if anyone's right there. What's the reason the defense took a huge step back last season statistically? What's the solution? The D line was wrecked. Injuries and young guys playing and missed assignments and guys just not having the talent level. So getting those guys back healthy and adding an experience is going to be, to me, one of the main reasons for this defense to turn around, which I have a lot of confidence it will turn around in 2022. Ohio State's pro days tomorrow. I think you're going to be well represented from Rob. Yeah, we'll see. Liberty and Ohio State are kind of the two big draws tomorrow. Obviously, Liberty has the quarterback, so I imagine that's where Tomlin and Colbert will be. But Pittsburgh always has guys out there at Ohio State. Maybe Frisman Jackson goes. Maybe Pat Meyer goes for some of the linemen. We'll have to wait and see. Rob.
I think they're showing his passing portion of that on the NFL Network tomorrow, by the way, as well.
Okay, so we'll have eagle eyes there. Usually, if Tomlin's there, that gets like announced right away because he's a very recognizable face. So we should know pretty quickly on Tomlin and Colbert's status. Let's see if we can find one or two more. Maybe go a little bit over time here because there are so many questions. I don't want to leave too many people hanging, but certainly do appreciate it. Mike asked about live mock drafts. Hopefully, do at least one here, Mike. See any other ones. A lot of comments here, a lot of discussion, which we always appreciate. Todd, do the Steelers need another tight end, or do you think we're set? What do you come in on tight end, Dave?
You're never gonna hear me turn down the opportunity to get one that can attach to the line of scrimmage and block. I thought Gentry made strides in that area, and I can definitely see them going that route with him. By no means am I suggesting spending a first, second, third, fourth, round, draft pick on that. However, if you got into maybe that later rounds there, and you're looking for someone, and look, I think this team obviously going to have some attraction to Connor Hayward. The question is you would think that if they spend any draft pick on that, that would be a seventh round pick on that, because he is undersized. He's a functioning fullback that you can probably occasionally do stuff with, maybe at the tight end position. But he's not going to give you you're not going to line him up against base 4-3 defensive ends as a true kind of tight end. Now he can carry the foot. He's a jack of all trades. He can carry the football for you. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can obviously block. He can play four team special teams. So if I didn't go that way, I would want a more traditional tight end, one that you could, one that's 6'5", 289, one that you could put on the end of the line of scrimmage. I'd be more concerned about his blocking and his special teams play than I would his ability as a pass catcher or a route runner.
Yeah, I could see the late day 3 dart throw. That's why I had Keefe in my mock draft as kind of that pure blocking type. Hayward is that more of that H-back mold, as you said. But certainly Hayward's an easy dot to connect to Pittsburgh. Please do not spam the chat. That's for Eugene and Dale, but I will answer Eugene's question about how much would I give Edmonds. I think Dave's projection of like 2 years, $8 million, so $4 million per year is a pretty fair number for Edmonds based on the market and his play. Is that
How much?
2 years, $8 million? Your suggestion for
Oh
Evans,
yeah,
$4 million
yeah.
per year seems fair.
I think that's ceiling for him.
Yeah, I think so too. And we'll see. Let's get one or two more questions in here. Hey Alex, do you think if Willis or Pickett is still at 20, do we pull the trigger? Yes. Short answer, Ben. I think that if one of those guys somehow falls, they will take him. If Tuitt does not return, how high is the draft priority at defensive line? Round 1, day 2. It's a good question. Again, I just struggle finding that name. As Dave talked about last year, it's kind of hard finding that good fit. Travis Jones, I know Mike mentioned Travis Jones. Could that be an option we need to consider more? Maybe, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to
the
it.
Oklahoma kid.
Yeah.
What's it?
Perrion Winfrey. Yep.
Yeah, Perrion Winfrey. There's a few of them. The Iowa State kid matches later rounds.
Is that the one with a hard name I cannot pronounce?
Yeah. And I'm still trying to get. I think he was a Shrine Game kid, if I'm not mistaken, and all like that. Seemed to kind of fit maybe a 6th round kind of guy there. But I think more than anything, we'll get a kind of a better. We'll see how much long if Tuitt sticks on this roster, because if Tuitt sticks. And he there's been really no sign that he won't at this point. If everybody's healthy and all right now, I mean, it's hard to put another, it's hard to throw, a draft pick at a defense. I'd much rather them spend it on a later round wide receiver than I would maybe a defensive end if Tuitt's back, because I think the wide receiver had better chance of making the 53-man roster than the defensive end.
Yeah, so we'll see. I want to just see what happens with Tuitt, so my mind and my thought process hasn't been too much towards it being an urgent need, and I'm still kind of leaning towards Tuitt returning, but again, nobody knows right now. Let's see. Last question comes from Bettsburg. Do you think Mitch will make the most out of our receivers, or will our receivers take a plunge in receptions? Yeah, I mean, Ben certainly helped develop some of those receivers in Pittsburgh. Obviously, Pittsburgh drafted well, but like Ben made those guys look pretty good too. So it's an interesting question and something that's kind of an unknown for this whole organization. Your thoughts on Mitch, and can he make these receivers look better, or will the receivers struggle because of the change at quarterback, Dave?
Look, I mean, the passing game is going to be a function of how well you're able to run the football. I think, so I don't think, can he push the football down the field? That's the biggest question when it comes to him. Obviously, Roethlisberger had his issues the last several years when it comes to the deep ball. You look at Mitch and his stats over the years; they haven't been great either, right? So that's the kind of thing that you have to worry about there. Look, Claypool is still going to be Claypool, though. I don't, unless you're able to get him where he's able to stack defenders better and get separation, there's going to be a lot of contested footballs in his future. Deontay, can you do so? Deontay, just the biggest question with him is can he limit those kind of drops, because he can obviously get open. I think Mitch will be fine when it comes to him. What else do you have at this point? Pat Farmer's going to get a lot of targets, right?
Hmm.
And probably less than 10 yards past the line of scrimmage as well too. So I mean, I think Mitch is very serviceable to a degree. The problem is uh, man, those mistakes that he makes are bad mistakes, man. And I don't have a lot of the confidence that he's going to be able to push the football down the field consistently. That's why they're going to have the run game. They're going to have to be able to use play action. They're going to have to use a lot of the levels concepts, making more easier throws with him out on the move and going half field type situations there. He's a You can function with him, but once again, it goes back to what we mentioned several times since he's been signed, is you got to have a lot of things. You got to help surround him in several different areas to help secure success with him, not just on a one game basis, but on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think that's well said overall. So we'll begin to wrap things up. And I apologize, Russ. I didn't mean to put you in timeout, my friend. I clicked the wrong person. I have this new phone. It's stupid. I got fat fingers. And so that was Dale, because Dale doesn't play nice with others in the chat here. So I apologize, Russ. That was certainly not intended for you.
Sorry,
You're
Russ.
always welcome here in the chat. Let's see if I can find one last question here. Who's the best linebacker for us from Darkshine the Kid? I mean, that can go a lot of different ways. The off-ball linebacker class is strong. I assume that's what you're referring to there. I'm a big fan of Damone Clark, but there are a lot of options here the Steelers could pick on, day 2, for example.
Yeah, the thing is will they go that route? You add Miles Jack to the room and all, and you tend, you can walk away easily from Spillane and Marcus Allen because those restricted tenders are not guaranteed. So those guys are just in sits fighting for spots right now. Will the real Ulysses Gilbert please stand up? What's going to happen there? If you do go that way, I mean, you got Buddy Johnson. You already spent a pick on. I would much rather them spend an early pick on the position if they're going to spend a pick on a position. A guy like Leo Chenal or something
Right.
like that. Uh, if you're not going to pick, one of the top off the ball inside linebackers for your system early in this thing, then my thoughts on the matter is why bother? Bring in a couple of the bodies through as undrafted free agents and see if you can get one that way.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up today's stream. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate all the great support here on the channel over the last week or so since free agency began, and certainly on tonight's live stream. Again, if you want to see an archive and replay version of this, you can go to my YouTube channel. It'll come up in a little bit. Also, SteelersDepot.com, and I think on the podcast as well, right? This gets put on the
Right.
podcast, right, Dave? So you can listen to that
Absolutely.
if you want to as well. So appreciate you guys being here. Also, David O, by the way, said Rashad Coward signed with the Falcons. So thank you, David
That's
O,
right.
for that information there. And again, appreciate you guys hanging out with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Peace and love. Thank you for coming.